Hey, what we're going to look at today as one of the Cobra interviews is a car that is definitely not a Cobra. However, for sure is part of the Cobra family. You're going to see why. This is a 40 GT. What the heck is that? I'm going to explain it. Let's go on a little field trip. Let's take a look at Tom Kirkhams' 40 GT. Today is we're going to take a trip down to Kirkham Engineering, and we're going to take a look at a 40 Ford that's unlike any 40 Ford you've ever seen, unless you've already seen this one, because it's the only one like it, trust me. So come on, let's take a look, see what we see. Okay, so let's take a ride to Kirkham Engineering. We're going to take a look at this GT40. It's not what you think. It's a GT40, 1940. What? So what happened was, and I didn't realize this until Tom explained it to me, but Ford didn't have the marketing rights to the name GT40 when they were trying to build their Gen 2 GT40 for the 2006 model year. They did have a running gear for it. He came up with this really cool idea for Ford marketing to build a 1940 Ford with GT running gear. Call it a GT40. You'll see what we mean. It's really unique. Well, it's unique. Well, hey, some of you know I kind of get hung up on semantics, and I don't normally use the term very unique. I think something's unique or it's not. This thing is very unique. So let's take a look at it. Also, he'll have some other cars there. He's working on some CSX 2000 Daytona Coupes. Yeah, I said CSX 2000. That's a serial number that hasn't been used since the 60s. Why is he getting to use it? Because they're super cool, that's why. There's some really one-off things there too that he's working on. So let's head on down, we'll take a look. So here's Tom, here's the man, the idea, the genius behind this machine. Tell us a little bit about this. How did this come to be, you building this one-off exotic deal?
We were talking with Ford Motor Company, their representative, and they were talking about, that they had lost or couldn't get the Ford, the GT40 name, had lost the rights to that. And I said, hey, we could build a 40 GT instead of a GT40, and they go, And I said, we can even do it out of copper, and they said, that sounds cool, let's do it.
Wow, that's really thinking outside the box. That's awesome.
Yeah, it started off as a joke, and this is what happened.
Sometimes when practical jokes are taken too far, you never know what's going to happen.
Yes.
Right? So how long did it take you guys to build this thing?
Just under a year.
Wow, sounds like a lot of work. Must have had a lot of hands on that.
Oh yeah, we had a full factory going on it.
Yeah, very nice. And so with this car, are you doing anything else like this these days? Any other unique cars?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I've got one here. It's a Falcon that we're building with the Voodoo engine in it.
Oh wow, maybe we could take a look at that later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all right. Okay, let's have a walk around on this 1940 GT. So copper body, as he mentioned, super cool. The ghost flames there. Really nice looking interior. Of course, all of this is, handmade. There's our supercharged Ford GT power plant. They've got grafted into the back of this thing. You can see the hinges and the frame are made from stainless steel, which of course is pretty cool. The wheels off of the Ford GT. The exhaust was made by Borla for the GT, and then they modified it to work in here. Nice looking frame. There's her license plate from SEMA 2005. It says the taillights and the headlights are the only pieces on this that would actually fit on a 1940 Ford. Here's a look from the driver's side in at the supercharged power plant. Pretty sweet. The running boards are aluminum. The door hinges are stainless. All Ford Motorsport gauges. Just everything's really detailed out, super nice. Nice looking leather seats in there. Windshield slanted back pretty far. Just a beautiful piece, isn't it? Oh yeah, if those seats look familiar, that's what would go in a Cobra. Pretty sweet touch. I thought these billet pedals looked really nice. Got the GT engraved in them and the supercharged engraved in them. So here's what I call kind of hardcore detailing, is when there's details you don't even see unless the builder points them out to you. So there's no door handles on the outside, which we've seen that a lot, but the door handle on the inside you can't even see unless you bend over and look up at it, and then at that, it's a handmade billet door handle. Okay, so Tom, as we've talked about a little bit, I'm building a Hurricane Cobra replica, and what I'm doing looks pretty simple compared to something like this. So on your build, what was the most challenging thing about this, would you say?
Ooh, it was all hard.
The whole thing?
Welding the copper was very difficult, getting it to weld up good. The problem with welding copper is if you weld it and you have a problem, you get it cut out the whole section. So you just more than doubled your work. So that was a learning curve, getting the engine sorted. Originally we were going to have a front engine, and then we just ran out of time and we said, let's put it in the back. I mean, it just on and on and on. This was a long and trying experience.
I'll bet. What would you say would have been the most satisfying or the most fun part of this build?
Showing it at SEMA.
Oh, okay, yeah, that must have been a big deal. Yeah,
and
good.
Seeing everybody's reaction.
And making the deadline, I bet.
Yes.
That'd be satisfying to actually pull that off.
Yes, we were working on this car as it was being loaded up in the transport trailer.
Wow. Well, hey, I really appreciate you giving us an opportunity to look at this. I can't imagine a car being more one-off than this one or more special. This thing's really great. Really appreciate this. Now, is this car for sale?
Everything's for sale.
Okay. I'll put a link to your email on here if somebody needs to buy this thing. I hope they got some money. Yeah. All right. Hey, well, thanks again.
Thank you.
So some of the other really neat stuff that's here. So this is a Daytona coupe he's building that is exact. These have interchangeable parts with the original cars. This one's a standard wheelbase, the 90-inch wheelbase. He's also working on one that is an extended wheelbase that would have been what Carroll Shelby wanted to build if he could have. So this one's 3 inches longer. You can kind of see it in the clip right behind the front fender opening. This thing, if Carroll Shelby would have had his way, probably would have whooped up on even the Mark II GT40s. These things were probably going to have cameras in them. The Deuce didn't want these things beating his precious GTs. It was cleaning house in international road racing, and of course especially Le Mans. If you're building these things exact, you should have suspension that looks exactly like the real McCoy. That's what they make there. Hey, as long as you're building an exact replica of the long wheelbase Daytona coupe that Carroll Shelby wanted to build, let's put a camera in it. Man, I wish this car was on order to go into my garage. So here's a car Tom's doing some work on for a friend of his. This came from Ken Block's stable, somebody bought from him. And it's a late 70s rally car. Really cool piece. It's got a Ford Cosworth engine in it that's had a bunch of work done to it, and a carbon fiber all over the place. It's a pretty cool looking deal. Here's the Falcon Tom mentioned earlier. This is a really neat looking one. They've put a cage in it. It's got a 3-link live axle in it with some horizontal shocks in the trunk. And really cool looking steel flares they've added onto it. This thing's going to be a pretty neat looking one, I think, when it's done. Looks like a Pro Tour car or something. Got great big Wellwood brakes on it and so on. So there you have a look at Tom's 40 GT. I hope you like that. And there are some other pretty cool cars there too. Hope you enjoyed those. I'm looking forward to doing the next one. If it needs to be your car, get a hold of me. Let's look at your car. Until next time, you guys stay safe. 1940 GT Ford? Or is it a 1940 Ford GT? Or is it a 40 GT?
GT Ford, or is it a 1940 Ford GT, or is it a 40